So you're thinking about starting a podcast, or maybe you're actively looking to get into some form of streaming. Could be video games, could be commentary on the hot button topics of today. Whatever it happens to be, you may find yourself inundated with the selection and the choices of hardware to get this thing going. The reason I know this is because before I actively settled on a specific piece of hardware, which is what we're going to talk about today, the Blue Yeti, I too could look, and there were literally hundreds of microphones out there. And it just seemed like it was very difficult to narrow the scope and the choice for whatever type of microphone that I may have wanted to try to really find out what was the best for me. Well, you're in luck, because I'm going to talk to you about why I believe the Blue Yeti is one of the best microphones out there. And this is especially true for those of you who are just looking to make a decision and jump right in. The thing that you don't want to do, which is kind of what a lot of people do, is they experience paralysis from analysis. They're overstimulated, they overanalyze, they overthink about all the different choices they have, too many to have, and then they ultimately don't make a decision or a choice at all. I'd like to help you today to get rid of that potential. Let's talk about the Blue Yeti. Now, the Blue Yeti, I'm going to tell you why I selected the Blue Yeti out of all of the various different microphones. Number one, it is like the OG of microphones. There's a lot, and I mean a lot, wherever you happen to be looking, there are a lot of microphones out there, a lot of off-brand, no-name microphones. Now, I don't know anything about those microphones, and I am certainly not willing, at least for me, I'm certainly not willing to go and purchase those microphones, and I'm unaware, there's very few reviews, maybe they're genuine, authentic, but I know that the Blue Yeti, for the cost, which we'll get into in a second, is worth it. There are multiple people out there, whether they've had a podcast or a streaming platform, who have said positive things about the Blue Yeti. And after over a year actually, of using the Blue Yeti, I am here to tell you that it gets 2 gigantic thumbs up. It works very, very well. Now, for the cost, if you buy just the microphone, not any of this stuff that you see with the boom arm or the shock mount, both of which we'll talk about in a second, but you get the Blue Yeti with the stand that you're seeing in the screen here. The stand's very heavy. It's weighty. You don't have to worry about it turning over. You can spend roughly about $100 to $110, depending on where you look and who the buyer is. Don't get me wrong, $100 is not going to break the bank, but it's also not chump change either. My recommendation, at least up to this point, is to trust the fact that there is a great microphone out there that's got a track record to it. And that's what I want to really hone in on right now, is that the Blue Yeti has a track record to it. There are a lot of individuals who have either started out with the Blue Yeti or continue to use the Blue Yeti through the duration of whatever it is that they need a microphone for. And I'm here to tell you that it also is one of the best microphones out there. Another reason why you might want to take a look at the Blue Yeti is simplicity. There are 2 different types of microphones in that regard. We are talking about a USB microphone or an XLR. Now, an XLR cable is what your more professional studios are going to choose, especially when you have more than one guest in there. And all that really means is the microphone plugs into something called an interface that then plugs into the computer and allows you to do various tweaks on, the various sounds and whatnot that you're trying to get out of your space. There's a lot of things going on. But when it comes to simplicity, you're looking to start something, you're looking for a great microphone to plug and play, seriously give the Blue Yeti a consideration. You plug your cord into the bottom of the Blue Yeti, you plug it into your USB into the side of your computer, you're ready to go. That's it. Super simple, super straightforward. Again, another pro in that column, when it comes to selecting a microphone. The third thing that I really like about the Blue Yeti is you have and I'm going to turn the microphone around so that you can see this, but this little this little button right here, it's lit red right now, but if I push it, you couldn't hear me talking. That's the mute button. That mute button right there is one of the nice things. It's very front and center. It's right there for you to be able to hit if you have to turn and sneeze or whatever, if you're doing audio only and you're unconcerned about the video portion, that whatever you're doing. The other thing that right below the mute button is a nice volume button that controls your headphones, the volume that you hear in the headphones. And so if you don't think you're hearing enough, you can very easily turn the volume up there, and that really functionally helps. Now the other two buttons or knobs that are on the Blue Yeti that are right here within camera shot. This top one is the gain. Now in the front, it's the volume button for the headphone. The gain button is like the volume for the microphone. If you want to hear more, and incidentally, that doesn't just mean your voice. It means everything else within the particular space that you're in. You can turn the gain up. And what we'll do really fast is I usually keep the gain very low on the Blue Yeti, but I'll turn it up and you can hear the microphone, and I won't even adjust it in post editing, but you can hear the volume turning up. I'm going to turn this back down now because the Blue Yeti is a very sensitive mic, but I primarily keep the gain function down because the Blue Yeti is so sensitive. Now below here is the bottom button or the bottom knob. Like, these are different patterns. What that does, it effectively lets you know which direction you want to be able to hear the microphone. You want the microphone to actually hear noise. I'm on the cardioid pattern, which is probably where you're going to want to stay at, but you're primarily talking to the front of this microphone. This microphone can actually pick up noise all the way around in one of the 4 selections here, if that was what you were trying to do. But again, for a beginner, a solo podcaster, solo, Twitch or streamer in general, the Blue Yeti is a great, great microphone. Now, earlier I had mentioned that what you can do is purchase the microphone with just a stand. And yes, you can. But I opted to purchase this microphone with the boom arm here. It came with this pop filter right here, which I do not use anymore. It also came with these headphones right here. And so you have a Blue Yeti microphone. It actually came with the stand too. And then it also comes with a Knox Gear boom arm, a Knox Gear set of headphones, and a Knox Gear pop filter. The pop filter stops the faster air syllables and sounds, the plosives, the P's and the B's. They come at the microphone fast and they spike. And you'll notice that if you use an editing software. And what it will do is, in post-production, if you're going to do any kind of editing at all, you will notice through speech patterns the spikes. And usually those are the plosives and a lot of people use a pop filter to kind of mitigate this. Now, I also additionally purchased this foam screen right here instead of using the pop filter. This sort of takes the place of the pop filter and also the way that you talk into it. Meaning I could talk directly into this microphone, as maybe you could too, or if you wanted to have this microphone not in screenshot and have it further away from you, that's also something that you don't have to worry about the plosives, the P's, the B's, the picking up the speech, the fast-paced discussions that you might have. If you kept the microphone farther away from you, then you wouldn't have to worry about that. But what you would have to worry about is all the ambient noise in your space, which we'll get into in just one second. But I want to highlight one more thing that I have on this Blue Yeti that I think makes it a top-notch, not just sounding microphone, but also aesthetically pleasing. Right here is a Borenbuhr shock mount. Borenbuir. Now, when I first got this microphone, this piece right here that threads into this originally thread into the bottom of the microphone. So this piece was facing up and then the microphone sat on top of it. Here's a photo for reference. It looks a little cumbersome. Now, if you don't care about aesthetics at all, then you don't need to worry about it. But the secondary feature of the Borenbuhr shock mount is that while this frame right here is threaded into this rod, the microphone sits independently via a set of rubber bands. Basically, it looked very similar to black hair ties. And what that does is it keeps noise. If you were to hit the desk or to touch your boom arm, what I noticed before I put this on is that any vibration would reverberate through the boom arm into the mic, and I could hear it on any of the tracks. So I went looking for a shock mount for the Blue Yeti, and then I found this aesthetically pleasing one right here that actually sits the Blue Yeti inside of it somewhat. So it looks like it's hanging down. And it's really aesthetically pleasing for me. In your Blue Yeti stand, the same spots right here, this is where it screws into the side of the Blue Yeti. This shock mount actually uses, there's a screw right here and a screw right here. And that's exactly what holds the Blue Yeti into the shock mount, is the same screw holes that the stand, the original stand, holds it up. This threads into there and it slides in. And again, you can see me moving the microphone independently of the shock mount. This is important because what it does, if you like to gesticulate a lot, flare your arms around, accidentally hit the microphone stand, and you're concerned about quality and you don't want those little bits of sound to get into your, post-production, into your video or just your audio only, the shock mount has a lot of value to it. And now we're going to transition into the only negative that I'll say about this mic. For me, this microphone is extra sensitive. This microphone, depending upon how you orchestrate it with your computer's volume input, how much do you want your actual computer to take in volume from the microphone, as well as the gain button right here, has a lot to say about how much your microphone picks up in the space that you're in. I typically record in a space that's 8 foot this direction and 12 foot this direction. I am also in a basement office. This basement has no type of soundproofing whatsoever. I don't have to worry about outside noises that I cannot do anything about. But what I do have to worry about is upstairs noises. I have a very low basement, a little bit over 6 foot, just so I can walk. But if you know anything about basements, they are echo chambers for what takes place upstairs. Now, you can mitigate this problem like I do by only recording podcast episodes during times that either somebody is not upstairs, or you kind of impress upon those, others in your household or whatever, hey, I'm getting ready to do a podcast episode. I appreciate you keep it down or whatever. But sometimes, let's be honest here, sometimes the spark of creativity hits, or somebody else is looking to join you, right? And you just don't have the time to schedule that. It just is a very impromptu thing, and you don't have the time to isolate yourself in that regard. That's my only con about the Blue Yeti, is that it is extremely sensitive, and I'm a heavy breather. If you are like me and you are a heavy breather, this sensitive microphone picks that up. It also picks up, I'm not even sure if it's been able to do this in the jacket, but this is a sort of a rain repellent jacket, and the movement from this jacket, and many of the sample recordings I've done, this microphone has also picked up that as well. Now, if you have the time and the ability to devote $20,000 into a studio where you're going to soundproof it or isolate as much of the noise and keep it inside the office as possible, or your sound, studio, then perhaps this microphone is exactly what you're looking for. And that one con that I mentioned of being too sensitive is a moot point. You don't have to worry about that. That's great. But I wanted to let you know about that single con. There's one other. It's not really a con per se for me, nor is it a con for those of you who are looking to do single recording sessions, just you and the microphone, or you're talking to someone else across, let's say, Riverside or Zoom or whatever, some other internet platform. But if you are looking to have other people join you personally, this is something else to be aware of with the Blue Yeti. Because the Blue Yeti is a condenser microphone, it's designed to pick up more ambient noise around. Now, you can adjust that, like I said earlier, via the specific pattern you use. but it's still designed to pick up ambient noise. If you're going to have individuals join you and you attempt to use a quote unquote condenser microphone like the Blue Yeti, you're going to have as much space in between the two of you as possible so that one microphone doesn't pick up the voice of the other person. Alternatively, what you could do is choose a different microphone, which is the dynamic microphones. And that's beyond the scope of this video. That's the only other con that I'm aware of in this particular microphone. Other than that, I'm speaking from experience. I have used this microphone a lot. If you go back and look at some of my really early videos, you can see where I'm recording with the Blue Yeti, and it's threaded directly into this piece of aluminum right here, and it sticks way up. And over time, you make little choices and little things, little decisions, and you tweak. You're making tweaks is basically what you're doing. Well, that's what I encourage you to do. If you're looking for a great microphone to get started, I highly recommend the Blue Yeti. And as you get into using it, you'll find that there are little tweaks that you believe you need to make. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's a better course of action than to do nothing at all because you feel inundated by the choices and selections that you could make, then you never make a decision at all. So that's the Blue Yeti in a nutshell. Highly recommend it. If you have a question, feel free to leave it in the comments, or you can go to thewealthyironworker.com. You can leave me a question in the contact form, and I'll do my absolute best to answer it. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it helped. I'll see you later.